Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I had to prove ownership of my own backyard pool, but life has a funny way of throwing curveballs at you when you least expect it. This is the story of how my entitled neighbor, Karen, tried to claim my pool as her own and even called the cops on me for using it. Buckle up, because this tale is as ridiculous as it sounds. My name's Mike, and I've lived in my current house for about 5 years now. It's a nice place in a quiet suburban neighborhood, with a decent-sized backyard that I've gradually been improving over the years. The crown jewel of my backyard oasis is the in-ground pool I had installed 2 summers ago. It was a big investment, but totally worth it for those scorching hot days and summer barbecues with friends and family. When I first moved in, the house next door was occupied by a sweet elderly couple, the Johnsons. They were great neighbors, always waving hello, occasionally bringing over baked goods, and generally keeping to themselves. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson passed away about a year ago, and Mrs. Johnson decided to move to a retirement community to be closer to her kids. I was sad to see them go, but I understood it was for the best. Enter Karen, my new next-door neighbor. She moved in about 6 months ago, and from day one, it was clear she was going to be different. Karen was in her mid-40s, divorced, with 2 kids, a teenage boy and a younger girl. I tried to be welcoming at first, introducing myself and offering to help with her move-in, but she barely acknowledged me beyond a curt nod. Over the next few months, I started to get a sense of what kind of neighbor Karen was going to be. She complained constantly about every little thing. My lawnmower was too loud, my trees were dropping leaves in her yard, my cat was trespassing on her property. I tried to be accommodating where I could, but it seemed like nothing was ever good enough for her. Things really started to heat up, pun intended, when summer rolled around. We had an unusually hot spell in early June, and I decided to open up my pool for the season. I spent a weekend getting everything set up, cleaning the pool, balancing the chemicals, setting out the patio furniture. It was a lot of work, but I was looking forward to enjoying some relaxing swims. One Saturday afternoon, I was out by the pool, soaking up some sun and reading a book, when I heard Karen's voice calling over the fence. Hey, you! I looked up to see her leaning over the fence, her face pinched in that perpetual look of annoyance she seemed to wear. "Oh, hi Karen," I said, trying to keep things friendly. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" She ignored my attempt at small talk. "I see you've opened up the pool," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Yep, just got it ready for the season," I replied, not sure where this was going. "Well, I hope you're planning on sharing," she said, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "My kids have been dying to go swimming." I blinked, taken aback. I'm sorry Karen, but this is a private pool. It's not really set up for the neighborhood to use." Her face immediately turned sour. "That's ridiculous. The previous owners always let us use it." Now, I knew for a fact this wasn't true. The Johnsons didn't have a pool. I had it installed after I bought the house. But before I could point this out, Karen continued her tirade. "It's selfish to have a pool and not share it with your neighbors. My kids need somewhere to swim this summer." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I understand that, Karen, but this is my private property. I'm not comfortable having other people use my pool when I'm not around. There are liability issues and—" "Oh, don't give me that liability nonsense," she snapped. "We won't sue you if something happens. Stop being so selfish and let us use the pool." At this point, I was starting to get irritated. "I'm sorry, but the answer is no. This is my pool, and I get to decide who uses it. Your kids are welcome to use the community pool at the park." Karen's face turned an alarming shade of red. "This is unacceptable. I'm going to report you to the homeowner association for this." With that, she stormed off, leaving me sitting there in disbelief. I knew we didn't actually have an homeowner association in our neighborhood, so I wasn't too worried about her threat. Still, I had a feeling this wasn't the end of the matter. Over the next week, I noticed Karen watching me every time I was out by the pool. She would stand at her kitchen window, glaring at me as I swam or lounged on the patio. It was unsettling, to say the least, but I tried to ignore it and enjoy my summer. Things came to a head the following weekend. I had invited a few friends over for a pool party, nothing wild, just a small gathering of about 6 people. We were having a great time, grilling burgers, sipping cold drinks, and cooling off in the pool. Suddenly, I heard angry shouting coming from Karen's yard. I looked over to see her standing at the fence, her face contorted with rage. "How dare you!" she screamed. "How dare you have a pool party and not invite us?" My friends all stopped what they were doing, looking at Karen in shock. I sighed and walked over to the fence to try and defuse the situation. "Karen, Please calm down, I said. This is a private gathering with my friends. I'm not obligated to invite you or your family. This is discrimination, she shrieked. You're excluding us on purpose. I'm calling the police. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Karen, that's ridiculous. The police aren't going to do anything about me having a private party in my own backyard. But she had already stormed back into her house, presumably to make good on her threat. I turned back to my friends, who were all staring at me with a mix of confusion and concern. I'm so sorry about this, guys, I said, feeling embarrassed. My neighbor's a bit intense. My friend Tom clapped me on the shoulder. Don't worry about it, Mike. Some people are just crazy. Want me to turn up the music to drown her out? I laughed, grateful for my friend's support. Nah, let's not antagonize her further. Let's just try to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. We went back to our party, trying to put Karen's outburst out of our minds. About an hour later, however, we heard the unmistakable sound of a police siren approaching. I couldn't believe it. She had actually called the cops. 2 police officers showed up at my front door a few minutes later. I went to greet them, feeling a mix of annoyance and disbelief. Good afternoon, officers, I said. What seems to be the problem? The older of the 2 officers, a man with graying hair and a kind face, spoke first. We received a call about a disturbance at this address. Something about unauthorized use of a community pool? I couldn't help but let out a short, incredulous laugh. I'm sorry, officers, but there's been a misunderstanding. This is my private residence, and that's my personal pool in the backyard. My neighbor seems to be under the mistaken impression that it's a community pool. The younger officer raised an eyebrow. Your neighbor called us claiming you were trespassing in her pool and having an unauthorized party. I shook my head, feeling a headache coming on. I can assure you, that's not the case. Would you like to come see for yourselves? The officers agreed, and I led them through the house to the backyard. My friends were all sitting around the patio table, looking concerned. I explained the situation to them briefly before turning back to the police. As you can see, this is clearly a private backyard pool, I said, gesturing around. I had it installed 2 years ago. I have all the documentation if you need to see it. The older officer nodded. That won't be necessary, sir. It's pretty clear this is a private residence. He turned to his partner. Johnson, why don't you go have a word with the neighbor who called this in? As the younger officer went to speak with Karen, the older one, whose nameplate read Officer Davis, turned back to me. I apologize for the disturbance, sir, he said. We have to respond to all calls, but it's clear there's no issue here. You're well within your rights to have a private gathering in your own backyard. I nodded, relieved that they understood the situation. Thank you, officer. I appreciate your professionalism. Just then, we heard raised voices coming from next door. Karen was shouting at the top of her lungs, her words clearly audible even from my backyard. This is an outrage. That pool belongs to the whole neighborhood. They're discriminating against my family. Officer Davis sighed, shaking his head. Looks like my partner might need some backup. Excuse me for a moment. He walked over to the fence, calling out to Karen and his fellow officer. I couldn't hear everything that was said, but it was clear that Karen was not taking the news well. After a few minutes of heated discussion, during which Karen's voice got increasingly shrill, the officers finally managed to calm her down. Officer Davis came back over to me, looking weary. Sir, I want to assure you that you're not in any trouble here. Your neighbor has been informed that this is your private property and that she has no right to access your pool without your permission. I nodded, relieved but still frustrated by the whole situation. Thank you, officer. I appreciate your help. Do you think this will be the end of it? He gave me a sympathetic look. I hope so, but I can't make any guarantees. If she continues to harass you or trespass on your property, don't hesitate to call us. We'll have this incident on record. After the police left, my friends and I tried to salvage what was left of our pool party, but the mood had definitely been dampened. As they were leaving, my friend Sarah pulled me aside. Mike, are you sure you're okay living next to that woman? She asked, concern evident in her voice. She seems unstable. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't have much choice, do I? It's not like I can force her to move. I just hope she'll calm down now that the police have set her straight. Oh, how wrong I was. Over the next few weeks, Karen's behavior only escalated. She seemed to have convinced herself that I was somehow in the wrong, and that she was entitled to use my pool whenever she wanted. It started with passive-aggressive notes left in my mailbox, demanding that I stop hoarding the neighborhood amenities and learn to share. I ignored these, hoping she'd eventually give up. Then, she started sending her kids over to ask if they could use the pool. At first, they were polite about it, but as I continued to refuse, they became more insistent. I felt bad for the kids. It was clear they were just doing what their mother told them to, but I had to stand my ground. One particularly hot afternoon, I came home from work to find Karen and her kids actually in my pool, splashing around like they owned the place. I was stunned. "Karen," I called out as I approached the pool area. "What do you think you're doing?" She looked up at me with a smug smile. "Oh, hello Mike. We were just cooling off. It's so hot today, isn't it?" I could feel my blood pressure rising. "Karen, you need to get out of my pool right now. This is trespassing." Her kids looked uncomfortable, but Karen just laughed. "Don't be ridiculous, Mike. This pool is for everyone to use. You can't keep it all to yourself." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Karen, we've been over this. This is my private pool on my private property. You have no right to be here without my permission. Please leave now, or I'll have to call the police." At the mention of the police, Karen's demeanor changed. She scowled at me but finally got out of the pool, ushering her protesting kids along with her. As she left, she turned back to me with a venomous glare. "This isn't over, Mike. You can't keep us out forever." After this incident, I decided I needed to take more serious measures. I installed security cameras around my backyard and pool area, and I made sure to always lock the gate leading to the pool when I wasn't using it. It was frustrating to have to take these steps, but I felt it was necessary given Karen's increasingly erratic behavior. The final straw came about a month after the trespassing incident. I had just gotten home from a long day at work and was looking forward to a relaxing swim. As I changed into my swim trunks, I heard a commotion coming from my backyard. I rushed outside to find Karen standing by my pool, screaming at the top of her lungs. Her kids were with her, looking embarrassed and uncomfortable. "What's going on here?" I demanded as I approached. Karen whirled to face me, her face red with anger. "You!" she shrieked. "You changed the lock on the gate. How dare you lock us out of our pool?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Karen, for the last time, this is not your pool. It's mine. I installed it, I pay for its maintenance, and I have every right to decide who uses it." "Liar!" she screamed. "This pool has always been here. It belongs to the neighborhood. You're trying to steal it from us." At this point, I was done trying to reason with her. "Karen, you need to leave my property right now, or I'm calling the police. And this time, I'll be pressing charges for trespassing." Instead of leaving, Karen pulled out her phone. "No, I'm calling the police on you. You're the one who's trespassing. This is my pool." I stood there, dumbfounded, as Karen dialed cop and began ranting to the dispatcher about how I was trying to steal her pool. Her kids looked like they wanted the ground to open up and swallow them whole. About 15 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up in front of my house. To my relief, I recognized Officer Davis from the previous incident. He approached us with a weary expression, clearly remembering the last time he'd been called out here. "All right, what's going on here?" he asked, looking between Karen and me. Karen immediately launched into her tirade. "Officer, I want this man arrested. He's trying to steal our neighborhood pool. He changed the locks and won't let anyone else use it." Officer Davis turned to me with a raised eyebrow. I sighed and explained the situation, showing him the security camera footage of Karen and her kids trespassing in my pool and her current attempts to claim it as her own. After reviewing the evidence and listening to both sides, Officer Davis turned to Karen with a stern expression. "Ma'am, we've been over this before. This is a private pool on private property. You have no right to be here without the owner's permission. If you continue to harass Mr. Johnson or trespass on his property, you will be arrested. Do you understand?" Karen's face went through a range of emotions: anger, disbelief, and finally, a dawning realization that she wasn't going to win this fight. Her shoulders slumped, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But the previous owners always let us use it," she said weakly. I couldn't hold back anymore. "Karen, the previous owners didn't have a pool. I had this installed 2 years ago. You can check the property records if you don't believe me." Officer Davis nodded. "That's correct, ma'am. We've verified the property records, and this pool was indeed installed by Mr. Johnson after he purchased the house. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises and not return unless invited." Karen stood there for a moment, looking utterly deflated. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away, her kids trailing behind her. After they left, Officer Davis turned to me. "Mr. Johnson, I apologize again for the disturbance. Would you like to press charges for trespassing?" I thought about it for a moment, then shook my head. "No, I don't think that's necessary. As long as she stops harassing me and trying to use my pool, I'm willing to let this go." Officer Davis nodded. "All right, but if she gives you any more trouble, don't hesitate to call us. We'll have a patrol car drive by periodically to keep an eye on things." After the police left, I finally got to have my swim, though it wasn't nearly as relaxing as I'd hoped. The whole situation left me feeling drained and frustrated. How had a simple backyard pool turned into such a ridiculous ordeal? Over the next few weeks, things were blessedly quiet. Karen seemed to have finally accepted that the pool wasn't hers to use, and I didn't see or hear from her. I started to relax, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the whole nightmare was over. Then, one evening as I was grilling dinner on my patio, I heard a tentative voice call out, "Mr. Johnson?" I looked up to see Karen's kids standing at the fence, looking nervous. The older boy spoke up, We wanted to apologize for everything that happened. We know our mom was wrong about the pool." I was surprised but touched by their initiative. "Thank you," I said. "I appreciate that. Is your mom okay with you talking to me?" The girl shook her head. "She doesn't know we're here, but we felt bad about how she treated you. We never wanted to trespass or cause trouble." I felt a wave of sympathy for these kids, caught in the middle of their mother's delusions. "It's not your fault," I assured them. "I know you were just doing what your mom told you to do." The boy hesitated, then asked, "Mr. Johnson, we know we have no right to ask this, but do you think maybe, sometime, we could come swim in your pool? We'd follow all your rules, we promise." I thought about it for a moment. These kids had shown maturity and responsibility by coming to apologize. Maybe there was a way to turn this whole mess into something positive. "Tell you what," I said, "if it's okay with your mom, maybe we could set up a few supervised swim times for you guys, but it would have to be with my permission, and your mom would need to sign a liability waiver." Their faces lit up. "Really? That would be awesome. We'll talk to our mom about it. Thank you, Mr. Johnson." As they ran off, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to coexist peacefully after all. The next day, I was surprised to find Karen herself at my door. She looked uncomfortable and wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mike," she began, her voice uncharacteristically subdued, I owe you an apology. My kids told me what they did, coming to talk to you yesterday. They made me realize how ridiculous I've been acting." I was stunned into silence, not quite believing what I was hearing. Karen continued, "I don't know what came over me. I guess I was jealous. When I saw you had a pool, all I could think about was how my kids would love it, and how we can't afford one of our own. But that doesn't excuse my behavior. I'm truly sorry for all the trouble I've caused you." I stood there for a moment, processing her words. Then, slowly, I nodded. "Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your apology. It means a lot." She gave me a small, hesitant smile. "The kids mentioned you offered to let them swim sometimes, if I agreed. Is that offer still open?" I nodded. "Yes, it is. We'd need to set some ground rules, and I'd need you to sign a liability waiver, but I'm willing to give it a try if you are." Karen's eyes welled up with tears. "That's incredibly generous of you, Mike. Thank you. I promise, things will be different from now on." And surprisingly, they were. Over the next few months, Karen and I worked out a schedule where her kids could come swim a few times a week under my supervision. Karen signed the liability waiver without complaint and even offered to chip in for pool chemicals and maintenance costs. As summer turned to fall, I found myself reflecting on the whole ordeal. What had started as a nightmare of entitlement and conflict had somehow transformed into an unexpected friendship. Karen and I were never going to be best buddies, but we had found a way to coexist peacefully and even help each other out occasionally. The following summer, when I opened the pool again, there were no dramatic confrontations or police calls. Instead, there was just the sound of kids laughing and splashing, enjoying the simple pleasure of a cool swim on a hot day. And as I watched Karen's kids playing alongside my friends' children, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, even the most entitled neighbors can surprise you. In the end, my backyard pool had become more than just a place for me to relax. It had become a catalyst for change, a source of community, and a reminder that with a little patience and understanding, even the most difficult situations can have a happy ending. As I sat there, watching the scene before me, I realized that sometimes the best revenge against entitlement isn't anger or legal action, but kindness and understanding. By taking the high road and finding a way to share my pool responsibly, I had not only solved the problem but had also helped create a more harmonious neighborhood. It wasn't always easy, and there were certainly moments when I questioned my decision. But seeing the joy on those kids' faces and the gradual softening of Karen's attitude made it all worthwhile. I learned a valuable lesson through this experience. Sometimes, the person acting entitled or unreasonable might be dealing with their own struggles or insecurities. While it doesn't excuse their behavior, approaching the situation with empathy can lead to unexpected positive outcomes. As the summer wore on, I found that my relationship with Karen and her family continued to improve. She started inviting me to neighborhood barbecues, and I returned the favor by including her family in some of my pool parties. The tension that had once defined our interactions had been replaced by a genuine, if somewhat cautious, friendliness. One evening, as we sat watching our respective kids splash around in the pool, Karen turned to me with a serious expression. "You know, Mike," she said, "I never properly thanked you for how you handled everything. You had every right to press charges or get a restraining order against me. The fact that you didn't, and that you were willing to give me a second chance, it means more than you know." I was touched by her sincerity. We all make mistakes, Karen. What matters is how we learn and grow from them. I'm just glad we were able to work things out. She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Me too. And I want you to know, I've been talking to some of the other neighbors. We're thinking about petitioning the city council to build a community pool in the park down the street. That way, all the kids in the neighborhood will have a place to swim." I grinned, genuinely pleased by the idea. "That's fantastic, Karen. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help with that effort." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the backyard, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. What had started as a contentious dispute over a private pool had blossomed into a catalyst for positive change in our entire community. The entitled neighbor who had once tried to claim my pool as her own was now working to create a truly shared amenity for everyone. It was a transformation I never could have predicted, but one that I was grateful to have been a part of. In the end, the story of my entitled neighbor in my backyard pool wasn't just about standing up for my property rights. It was about the power of patience, understanding, and second chances. It was a reminder that even in the face of unreasonable demands and seemingly intractable conflicts, there's often a path to resolution if we're willing to look for it. As I watched Karen gather her kids to head home for the evening, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The summer of the Great Pool debacle had turned into something unexpectedly beautiful, and as I closed the pool gate behind them, I couldn't help but think that sometimes, the most satisfying victories are the ones where everybody wins. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.